Hello and welcome. Tonight on Shift Gear. I drive an SUV I don't like. Ricky drives an SUV he doesn't like. And Jim drives an SUV he doesn't like. So you'll be surprised to hear that we start tonight's show with SUVs that we don't like. These days there are more medium and small-sized SUVs and crossovers on the market than there are hair products in Ricky's bathroom.
Or jeans in Cluxon's wardrobe.
Yes, these are strange things for people who want an SUV that's slower than something like this Aston Martin DBX.
And less capable than something like this Defender.
We all agree that these smaller SUVs are overpriced, unnecessary, and completely horrible in every possible way. What we couldn't agree on, though, was if we had to have one, which would we choose? The producers therefore told us each to choose one, before meeting at the Shift Gear test track, where we will be given a series of challenges to complete. I was the first to arrive in this, the Maserati Levante, and immediately explained the problem. You see, this is basically a Maserati Ghibli, but more expensive and worse to drive, so I would much rather have one of those. However, as this challenge is about small SUVs, this is the best available. At this point, my colleague arrived in a Range Rover Velar.
It's the Range Rover Velar. What do you think?
This is supposed to be the best small SUV, Jim. This is almost as big as a full-size Range Rover.
This sits below the Sport in the line-up.
Isn't that the Discovery?
No, that's off to the side.
No, it isn't.
We could have continued to argue about the confusing Land Rover range, but then Mr. Hamster arrived.
Oh, look, he's brought a Macan, the Porsche that can't.
You've both brought the wrong cars, that Range Rover isn't small, and that Maserati has no power.
This is 424 horsepower.
I have 434.
Oh, so barely a difference at all.
Still more though.
At this point, we decided to get on with testing the S part of our SUVs, the sporty bit. We began by sending an M3 around to get a benchmark time. The BMW did it in 1 minute and 7 seconds, and now Jim June will fail to match that in the Range Rover Velar.
Right, now I do have the least power, least torque, slowest acceleration and lowest top speed, but I do have the mostest gears.
Next up, Ricky Hamster. Finally, it was the turn of the Levante. So, the times. The BMW did it in 1 minute and 7 seconds. The Range Rover, 1 minute 23. The Porsche did an impressive 1 minute 11, just 4 seconds off the M3. And the Maserati, a 1 minute 15 seconds.
Which means the Porsche is the fastest. I told you those 10 horses would help.
So the most sporty of 3 not sporty vehicles is the Macan. Right, onto our next test. Which was to find out how utilitarian they are. This test was simple. How big are the boots?
My Porsche Macan has a boot capacity of 488 litres, which increases to 1,503 litres with the back seats down.
The Levante has 580 litres, but Maserati won't tell us the capacity with the seats down.
Unsurprisingly, the Velar beats both of those, with a boot capacity of 632 litres, which increases to 1,731 litres with the seats down. Now, these numbers might seem a bit meaningless, so we should explain that all three of them have a smaller boot capacity than the Mercedes E63 estate, which has a 640-litre capacity, 8 more than even the Velar. With the seats down, this increases to 1,820 litres, which is nearly 90 litres more than the Velar. It does baffle me how such large cars can have so little space inside.
So far then, we have established that all of our SUVs are slower than a saloon and less practical than an estate.
And that concludes another important test.
It was therefore time for our third test, how well our cars worked as vehicles. Now to do this, we are going to see whether our cars are better than a train, and here comes the train now. This would be a straightforward A to B race against the train. Ricky went first in the Porsche.
Here comes the train now. Let's go.
And he got off to a great start.
I am going much faster than the train here, but where the train's route is dead straight, the road winds around, making it a much longer distance.
By the time the two routes next met, the train was ahead, but not by much, and soon Ricky was back in the lead. It was looking good, but then...
What? I've got no power. It's gone into limp home mode. And there goes the train.
This was just before the finish line, and so the train had won. Next, though, it was my turn in the Levante. No, the train is already away. Just like Hamster, I merged behind the train, so I put my foot down, which was a mistake. No, it's gone into limp home mode, and there goes the train across the finish line. Finally, though, it was June's turn in the Velar. It was time to see if at least one of our cars could manage some higher speed road driving without getting upset. And it had no problems. However, our colleague had another problem. He had driven so inconceivably slowly that the train had won anyway. And with that test completed, we can conclude that SUVs are no good at sport or utility stuff, and that if you want a vehicle, you're better off with a freight train. Back to the studio. Thank you. Thank you. Now we thought that was that, but the producers have other ideas, so we will pick that up later on. Anyway, we must now take a look at this car behind me. It's the latest Mustang. It's called the Dark Horse, and who else could test it other than our resident American? Him.
Hello. The Ford Mustang Dark Horse, a name that sounds like a covert MI6 agent, or something Batman would drive on weekends. And I'm already smiling, because this is not just any Mustang, it's the one they made when someone in Detroit said, let's build something that actually goes around corners, but don't you dare take the V8 out. Let's talk numbers. Under the bonnet is a 5-litre, naturally aspirated V8. It produces 500 horsepower, which is just the right amount to feel like you're constantly being chased by a stampede of angry horses. It'll do 0 to 60 in about 4 seconds, which is quick. Not Ferrari quick, but quick enough to make your morning coffee a one-way ticket to the upholstery. And it sounds absolutely glorious. That deep, burbling, thunderous roar that Mustangs have always done so well. It's the sort of sound that makes your inner child throw their juice carton in the air and start hooting like a maniac. It makes you feel like a cowboy, just with more horses. Now, historically, if you wanted a Mustang that could handle a corner, you'd have to move to America and start praying. But not this one. The Dark Horse comes with serious upgrades. Magna Ride adaptive suspension, a proper limited slip differential, massive Brembo brakes, and tyres that were basically stolen from a race car. And it works. On a track, it actually feels composed, pointy, even agile. Imagine that. A Mustang that doesn't just crash into a hedge every time you show it a roundabout. Inside, it's surprisingly modern. There are big screens, driver modes, digital dials, and a flat-bottom steering wheel that feels like it belongs in a fighter jet. Everything is just aggressive enough to remind you it's a muscle car, but also slick enough that you won't feel like you're commuting in an 80s arcade game. And here's the best bit. It still has a 6-speed manual gearbox. Yes. A proper, clunky, mechanical, row-it-yourself box that makes every gear change feel like a victory over the machines. You can spec an automatic, but why would you? That would be like ordering a steak and asking the chef to chew it for you. Is it perfect? No, it's still wide. Very wide. On a narrow British B road, it feels like trying to steer a sofa down a corridor, and subtle it is not. If you turn up to a village pub in one of these, people will assume you're either in a rock band or wanted by Interpol, but that's sort of the point, isn't it? The Dark Horse isn't trying to be a Porsche. It doesn't sip fuel, whisper politely, or blend in. It roars, it slides, it wears its heart on its bonnet and dares you to try and tame it. The Mustang Dark Horse is everything you want from a muscle car in the modern age. Fast, loud, vaguely terrifying, and, somehow, clever too. It's like discovering your pet Rottweiler can do calculus. And really, how could you not love that? Thank you. Thank you.
So this thing really can go round corners now.
Yes, it really is rather brilliant.
And we'll now find out how brilliant by handing it over to our untamed racing driver, the Tigs. The Mustang lining up there, watch out cameramen. No drama on the start, the Tigs handling all of that American horsepower well. Nice and controlled into the first corner. We should explain that the Tigs always listens to whale song whilst driving. This can improve his lap times by up to half a second. Getting nice and close to that tyre wall. Into the last couple of corners. And across the line. The Dark Horse did it in 1 minute, 6.3, putting it just ahead of the Bentley Continental convertible.
Interesting. Now, earlier on, we were testing 3 horrible small SUVs.
Yes, so far we had proved they were less sporty than a saloon, less utilitarian than an estate, and worse vehicles than trains.
And we thought that was that. But the producers had lined up one more challenge. We pick things up at the starting point. So the producers have said that although these cars will never actually go off-road, that they should have some sort of ability away from the tarmac. So we are going to have a short race from point A to point B, but how we get there is up to us.
Hold on a minute. What's that?
What's what?
That Levante behind you looks strangely like a Ford Raptor.
It's basically the same. It's blue. It has 4 wheels. What's the problem?
You can't just swap into something that's better at off-roading for this test.
Let's not get bogged down on who may or may not have changed cars. We must begin our important final test.
Despite Cluxon's blatant cheating, we set off. Or 2 of us did. June decided he was better off reading a map.
Now that we're alone, viewers, I should explain the reason I'm actually in this is because the Levante was rather more difficult to fix after the previous test than we thought. I'm actually pleased that I'm in this Raptor because, and don't tell Hamster this because he loves pickup trucks, but this thing is properly good and you need a proper off-roader here. Something that Hamster soon found out.
Whoa, I can't go down there. Right, I need to find another route.
It wasn't long before he sped past me again at the start point, which is why you always check the map first.
Ah, this is back where we started.
Whilst June had now set off, his time spent map reading, and Hamster's time spent going the wrong way, meant I had built up an excellent lead. And soon I had reached our destination. And here we are. This is the destination they have given us. Despite having to turn round, not much later Hamster arrived. Hamster!
You surely can't claim that as a victory. You're in the wrong car.
Listen, you've come second. You're taking it badly, I think. It doesn't matter, though, because the important thing is that we both got here before Jim.
That's true. Where is Jim?
Here he comes. He's surely not going to cut through that water.
Ah, maybe that's too deep.
Oh no.
The car is dead. Now I'm going to have to wade back.
Anyway, back to the studio?
Yep, back to the studio.
Water made me feel cold. I really wouldn't have wanted to end up in there.
What that film proves is that if you want a Range Rover Velar, Maserati Levante, or Porsche Macan, you're better off with a Ford Raptor.
Not only that, but its near as makes no difference. Half the price.
But you can't buy one in Britain. And on that slight annoyance,
For people in Britain.
it's time to end. Thanks for watching. Good night.